So today we're going to do a tutorial on how to create plan sheets. Now this is quite an in-depth topic, so I will only cover some of the areas which I feel are critically important. What we were going to do is we're going to bring in a title sheet, fit view frames into that title sheet, modify the viewports so that we can only see the things we want to see, and then learn about how to plot this effectively. So starting with the title sheet, I have three files open right now. I have my existing ground surface, I have my 2D line work, and I've got a title sheet. This is a standard template form. The size of it is 22 inches high by 34 inches wide, which is a double 11 by 17 plan sheet. Notice a few of the components on here. It has a text box for county. This can be modified simply by double clicking on it and typing in company name, project name. We have a scale bar. This one is in 40 scale, which means 40 feet per every paper inch on the page. We have a north arrow, and then we have some more information down here. So what I would do is I would modify this title sheet to have the correct settings that I want, and then I would save it and get out of it. Next, I want to get this plan sheet view inside of a new drawing. Remember that when we're doing file management, we don't want to have more objects in our drawing than is necessary. So I'm going to create a new drawing. And I'm going to type in XR for XREF, hit enter. And I'm going to reference in that file. Getting some error messages that aren't important. I'm just going to bring it in at the 0, 0 coordinate. And I'm going to double click my middle mouse button to zoom to extents. Now what we have in here is the drawing now. I also want to bring in my existing ground, which I've already pulled into the other drawing as a data shortcut. So I'm going to create that reference. I'm going to accept the default settings, and there it is. Now, like I mentioned previously, I want to keep everything in a different drawing. I'm going to be a little bit lazy here, and I'm going to just create a quick alignment inside my drawing for demonstration purposes. And we're going to place that up here. So now I've got a alignment and a profile. Now what I want to do is I want to place these in separate view frames. I want this to be my plan view frame and this to be in a separate profile view frame. Now this is where we're going to go to our layout space. This is how we can determine what settings will go into how we choose the paper space of the worksheet. This looks like an 11 by 17 sheet. If I right click on that layout, I can go to Page Setup Manager. And there we see plot size is 8.5 by 11. So let's change that. The first thing we always want to do is change the printer settings. I always choose this DWG to PDF. Next we want to change the paper size. Like I said before, we're working with a 22 by 34 inch. I always do the full bleed, 22 by 34. And let's leave it at that for now. So we've got this view frame that came in by default. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to create a new one later. Now I've got this paper sheet. This is my sheet that's set up. So what I want to do is I'm going to type in XR, hit enter again, and I'm going to bring in my title sheet. Bring it in at the 0, point. And we can see that it looks like it's about the right scale, however it's not quite centered on that paper space. And fortunately there's a very rapid, very fast way we can do this to center this paper on top of this drawing. If we go to Page Setup Manager, go back to Modify, and we can choose what's the plot area, and I'm going to change that to Window. And having my snaps on, I'm going to snap it to this line at the edge of the drawing, and then I'm going to click Center Plot. And the effect of this is now I have a plan sheet which fits perfectly inside of that plotted area. So let's take a look now at the separate view frames. You can see this line right here in the middle of the drawing separates the top from the bottom. So I'm going to go up here into my layout tools, go into viewports and create rectangular viewport. I'm going to snap it to the top there. Now I've got a viewport in here. Now the question is, what area do I want to look at? So we'll take a look at this viewport and see how large is it in paper space. It looks like it's 31.5 by 9.75 inches. So let's go back to our model space and let's draw a shape that's that size. I'm going to turn on my orthogonal snaps right here, which keeps me going straight. So 31.5 by 9.75 high. .75, 1.5. So I'm going to use this as a view frame to guide the placement of where my other view frame is going to be. I'm going to scale it, typing in SCALE, choose the base point, and I'm going to just type in 40. So now this is the correct size I want to do. I'm going to place it approximately right in here. And I'm going to line it up according to I need to have my snaps turned on. I'm going to grab the midpoint of this line. Oh, I'm on the wrong command. Type M, enter for move. I'm going to try and see if I can get the midpoint snap. Okay. And then I'm going to snap it to the end of this alignment. And I want it to be offset by 1 inch. I want to see about 1 inch of paper space to the left of here. We know 1 inch of paper space is 40 feet of what we call real space. So I'm just going to type in 40. And now we've centered this alignment in the middle of this view frame. One thing to note, we don't really want to see this line. It's currently on layer 0, which is a printable layer. So let's go to our layer properties and see if we can find a layer which does not print. And I'm not too picky. So let's look at this plot. I see here's one right here, C Anno view frame. Go set that as my current. And go type in lay cur, which will change. I made that my current layer, and I'm going to change that. So now this shape will not print, though I can see it, and that's exactly what I want. Let's go back to the layout view. We'll double click on this view frame, which changes it from model to paper space. Now what we can do is we can zoom according to that window. So I typed in zoom, and now I want to click window. So I'm just going to grab the corners of that. So that places that inside there. The scaling is now a little bit off. So I'm going to type in as regen to automatically rescale all of the annotative labeling. I'll notice the scale is almost 40:1, so I'm just going to manually change it. So there, it's exactly at 1:40. Now this is exactly the view that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it. Now when I go back and forth to move it, I'm in the model space. If I had not, and I move it, I could still grab it and change it back and forth, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to keep it at that view, do a lock, and now I'm out of this view. Now let's work on the profile view. Go create another rectangular alignment. Now I want to look at this. Now part of the trick about the profile view is we want to look at this space right here, but we also want to see the labeling on the top, bottom, and sides. So what we're going to do here is we're going to adjust the outsides of this view frame, and we're going to put separate view frames for these labeling marks. So I'm going to move this up. I'm going to turn on my orthogonal lock again. I'm going to move it 0.75 inches up, 0.75 inches over, and 0.75 inches over. Now let's take a look at what's the size of this shape. It says 30:9. So let's go back into our model space. I'm going to draw a shape that's 30 by 9 by 30 by 9, and we're going to scale that by times 40, like exactly the way we did last time. I'm going to join those together so they're a single shape. Now what I want to do is place it and line it up according to my previous view frame. I'm going to snap it to that middle, snap to the beginning, and if we remember, we had moved it by 40 feet to the left. So I'm going to do the same thing and move it 40 feet to the left here. Also, it looks like this existing profile isn't quite centered, so I'm just going to adjust, turn on orthogonal again, turn off my snap, and I'm just going to kind of approximately line that up to the middle. Now what we want to do is create my view frames for these side pieces. Well, we can go ahead and zoom to that. Zoom, window. And again, change that. Let's create some view frames around the edge of here. So I'll create one there. Create another one here. Just go snap it to the bottom there and then shift it back up. And then one for the bottom. So let's look at the size of these things. So this one is 9 inches high by 0.7 wide. And this one is 30 inches wide by 0.75 inches high. So we're just going to go ahead and start drawing those. I'm going to do a polyline. PL, hit enter. 0.75, 30, 0.75, there, and hit enter. I'm going to scale this up to 40. Now I'm going to line it up with this existing view frame so we can get this to match on both the top and bottom. So I snap it there. Going to make sure I have my intersection snap turned on. Turn back orthogonal. And let's turn off endpoint and midpoint snaps. And we'll just get this close. There. Oh, sorry, that's the data bends. So we'll just bring it down one more. Some things I like to do sometimes is line it up once and then get it so that line is in the middle, and then I can match. Sometimes this works. I can get an intersection. So it's not working now. I'll just get close. And I'll now do the same thing for this side. We wanted to go 9 inches tall by 0.75 wide. 9. Turn on my snap. To turn some of those back on. And we're going to go ahead and scale that again to 40. Again, these are separate lines. I'll join them. Remember, these are still all on that view frame, which does not print. So we can see it here, but we will not see it in the final drawing. Just turn off snaps and I'll line that up. I'll do a copy, CO, enter. And I'll bring it over here, turn off my snaps. And great, now we have all of our boxes lined up for our view frames. I'll go back to layout view and I'll first focus on this left side. We'll just do a zoom, W for window, and I'll line up the corners of that as best as I can. And then I'll do a regen, and then I'll lock it because I don't want this moving. And we'll just take a quick second to note, I'm going to lock this view frame as well, to note how these line up. They're not precise, but they're very close. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to line up the bottom section. Zoom to window. It's a little bit tedious to do this so many times, but you go change that so it's exactly 40 scale, do a regen, and I'm going to lock that too. And I'm going to go over here to the right side and change that as well in the same way. Do regen and lock that. And let's change back to paper space by just clicking outside here. Now we've generally got what we'd consider a plan and profile view. There's just two more things that I'd like to change on this before we get to plotting, and that is I want to go and add some text right here. I'm going to make it, we'll just call it 0.2 inches tall. Let's call it 0.01. And we could change that to whatever size we want, because I might have a more specific size I wanted to set. And also, this is very messy, and we don't want to see all of these layers on here all together. We can't even see our alignment. So what we're going to do is double click on this. We changed it to the model space. And I'm going to use a command called VP layer. And I'm going to do a freeze. And if I hit enter, I can select the objects that I want to get rid of. So let's say I don't want to see some of these utilities or these annotations. So I'll just click on, so it looks like we've got this in as a full drawing. What we could do, so this is a reference, this isn't actually inside of here. We'll go into our layer properties and open up XREF, Vinker, and Survey. And we could do it by, let's say I don't want to see all of these annotation layers. I'll go here and look at view frame visibility, which is this one right here. Just try and make that a little bit bigger so we can see it. We'll turn all of those off. Let's turn off some of these other ones too. There's a lot of layers in here. Let's turn off everything related to water. And let's say I don't want to see that vegetation inside of there. So I can try and find out which layer that's on. And we can experiment more with that later, but we'll just go with this view frame right here, and all that's left is to plot it. If you just type in plot and then hit enter, it wants me to batch plot, and that would be a good option if you have a lot of sheets. I only have one sheet, so we'll just continue to plot a single sheet. We've already set up these settings that we wanted. If you had a base map with transparency, you could turn on plot transparency. Otherwise, we should change the plot style table. And it looks like I don't have any of the defaults for some reason, but on a standard setup, there should be, well, that's because I didn't set up this drawing with any template. But typically you should see a few. I would typically use anything that's black and white. We typically would not print in color, but that's up to you as well. So we'll take all these settings and hit OK. Set the file to my desktop. We'll watch it print. And like I said, because we didn't change the plot style table, we can't see any of these things in black and white. But this is approximately what we are looking for in the plan and profile. There's a lot more fine-tuning that can be done, but we'll just take this as it is. Thanks for watching.